All right. Welcome back for another session of trading. I look forward to this Tuesday sessions, right? Because the week had just started. We see what has happened last week, how the week ended, and then over the weekend, any geopolitical conditions that transpired, and where the market wants to go. Right, Monday kind of starts to set the tone a lot of times. But by set the tone, you also have to keep in mind it could be where Monday is the day where it finds a bottom. Right, it's not necessarily one that says, "Hey, I'm going to keep going down," but sometimes it's just where it finds the bottom. But it kind of gives us an idea, right? Based on structure. We always look at structure, right? The most important part for us is structure. Higher high, higher low, lower high, lower low, consolidation, where our fibs are indicating price could go. We look at all of that structure, and based on that structure, Monday kind of set tone. And so this week has been kind of a weak, week. So Monday wanted to start out kind of flat because Friday was a down day, right? We jumped up, but was a down day. The last week after our session, we closed this gap in the spies. In the Qs, I don't know if we drew that gap, but we have this demand zone, right? And this demand zone, we completely closed that demand zone in the Qs. So since I started with the SPY, I'll come back to the Qs momentarily. So we closed this gap, which acted as a temporary support. We moved up and then boom, we collapsed. So sometimes, like for not necessarily for trading, because we're in an uptrend, right? We're in an uptrend with momentary downside pressure, testing our green to green in this recent uptrend. Our green to green in this longer time frame, right? This longer time frame, we had gone below to 50% and retesting again that same zone. Now, you can say we closed below 50%, so even this long term, I want to redraw it, right? But this is monthly, right? So monthly, this is our monthly. So if you really want to say, you know what, I'm tired of this because we closed below. I'll put it back to remind you again. We closed below the 38.2. So we always say we redraw once that happens, because there's a lot of shaking happening here, right? So it is probably something I've been thinking about the last couple of days, is we should redraw our monthly fib here. So if we redraw our monthly fib and look at it on a daily, now this recent up move and this swing up here from the monthly, right? We're in that 38.2 for both of them, right? So this green to green is always my sweet spot. So when you look at the daily, this is where we are, and actually moving forward, I will ignore the previous monthly uptrend and look at this new uptrend, right? We haven't made a new high, but because we've went below that 38.2 and we have now a new uptrend, let's just look at that. So where I was going with that is, in this recent uptrend where we are testing our green to green, one of the things I like to look at is in this downward movement. So that I'll just draw for lesson purposes. I'll just keep doing this. This 38.2 is breached. So it's breached here. So this now is moved here, and this is moved here. When this is again breached here, So this is moved here, and we first move here, but it doesn't breach it. We move here, we move here, it's still below, right? So the reason why I draw this is, where did Friday reverse? Just to take a look. Like we're only taking trade on the long side, right? On the long time frame trend. But when we see the downside, is it kind of gives us an indication, like part of our practicing. If I ignore everything else, if I were going down, how would I trade it? If I don't ignore everything else, where would this recent downtrend reverse? Right? So I would like to see this at some point, like when it's in my green to green, I would like this to reverse at some point. Right? It might be easier a little bit to see it on this. We're at on a daily basis, when we look at the monthly fib, we're testing that first green. On the shorter time frame, we're testing the 50% and maybe potentially going to the 61.8. So when we're looking at this, where could price potentially reverse, right? Is this green to green zone. So because we're in this green to green zone, somewhere here we would like to see our usual pattern, right? And this pattern comes if we get a hammer, engulfing, railroad tracks, or a flag that follows by a bullish break, like a pennant, a flag. So if we see one of those here and we start to see higher low, higher high, boom, we know this is done, right? But as we look at that, is currently the price is struggling to recover, even going to that new green to green on the downside. If we go back here, I like to show you something here. If we go back here, you see how we touched the 78.6, but we never broke it, right? That's our reversal area that says, hey, for sure now I start to draw my fibs the other way, right? This has not happened. So we know when it collapsed here, the downside pressure is not yet done. So when we move this to this new area, again, here, we tag that 78.6. This I'm repeating this because when you're on the other side and when you're ready to go, if it comes and tags the 78.6 and it struggles, we could see something like this, like a strong move to the direction we want to go. Like green to green is our sweet zone, but if we don't get this zigzag here and we happen to get it here, same concept. It tags, and what happens? Immediately, let's zoom, right? It tags, it forms a flag. Let me see if I can draw a nice. It forms a flag, a pennant. Right here, boom, it breaks out, right? Ready to go. So this is what we want to see when we're going in the direction that we want to go, right? Whoever was going short, whoever was willing to take it to the downside, boom, this was perfect, right? Perfect setup. So that's why I'm going over this sessions with this kind of setup. So when we were here, we tagged, and then same thing when we are here. Now, next time when we came here, we stayed in that green to green zone. Right? Same thing again, though. We have this flag. I think it's good to see this. We have this flag here. And what happened? Immediately, it broke out of that flag. Then you take a trade here. Boom. Right? So this is really, really good lesson here because it's showing you clearly where price wants to go, right? And the way you say is you decide, you let your fibs line up, green to green, or you know, sometimes it's up here, sometimes it's shallow. You always hear me say I don't like those shallow trades. I want them to go a little bit deeper. That's where I'm more comfortable. So again, same thing here. But because it did not clear the 38.2, now we just keep moving our fib to the downside. Right? We just keep moving it to the downside. So now, in the grand scheme of things, let's see, maybe it just might be easier if I turn this one. Let's make this one daily to see it like this. So when we come here, we know the difference. So in this recent daily uptrend, we are near that 38, that 50% retracement in this recent uptrend. In the recent uptrend of the monthly, right? We've ignored the past because those have really been taken care of. In that recent monthly uptrend, we're in that 50% zone. So this is beautiful, right? It's setting up beautifully, but for new traders, I'd say do not take a trade. Right? Do not take a trade. So I want us to get to a point where you've journaled enough so that we're taking both sides of the trade. Because like when I take advantage of this move, I want you to take advantage of this move, right? This move here, beautifully set up. Now we have this big gap. What happens when we get to this gap, right? If we march toward that gap, it could be our green to green reversal again, right? Because I think that we have a potential to come back down to this 78.2 retracement. So let's get ready. So now let's just quickly look at the cues. And when we look at the cues, we had said, hey, if we get this here, wait, before I do that, let's go back and do the same thing here with this fib levels. Right, so from this okay, so from the COVID low, that's where we had drawn it. It definitely cleared this, so we just want oh, that's not the one I want to move. This is the one I want to move. If it lets me, I want to move it here, and I want to move this here. This is our new fib, actually, right? It's actually, I apologize for not moving it sooner. In my mind, I keep thinking about it, but I just don't do it. And so our daily, then, if we look at our daily, is this recent move. So we'll just change this to daily to make it easier. And then when we come back to our hourly, what we are seeing is this move down in our up move, right? The thicker line is monthly, the thinner the dash is daily. So when I'm looking at that daily, I'm near that 38.2. Same with spies, right? So I've cleared the 38.2 and I'm back at 50. One thing I've said before is the spies are going to catch up to how much the Qs had fallen before. So I think they're going to balance each other out. I have no data again, but it's just something that I observed. So the spies are pulling back a lot stronger this time than the Qs. So we're playing around in that 38.2. This is our green to green zone. Now, what we're seeing is we have what could be this zigzag forming, right? So we came down, we went up here, and this is here. So let's see if we get an entry here tomorrow. If we get this entry, we're taking it, right?
Yep.
Because we're at 38.2, that's green to green, and if we get this zigzag, we get a nice solid base here, or we get a hammer when the market's open. At least we're shooting for the uh, the gap here. We're shooting for this gap. If not, if price wants to keep going down, because the futures, to me, like below 70 points shows like kind of a flat. So, like at night, right? Because there's not a lot of activity at night.
Mhm.
Night US. So we could continue to go down, trying to capture these gaps here. That's a possibility. Or we could go even deeper to our 61.8. But if now the best setup we have is in the queues for for a beginner trader, right? So because we're at our green to green zone, if we get a hammer, railroad tracks, engulfing, we're going. We're going here. So this is the setup for both of these, which is I think a beautiful setup. So with that said, any trades?
Yeah, I took a few trades, but I just had a few questions before, if we can just
Okay,
take a look at
sure.
the buys real quick.
Okay.
So just um, actually, I can't remember my question, so maybe it'll come to me, but we
Okay.
can go to the tweet and then we can circle back.
Okay.
So I took two trades. One of them I ended up getting stopped out, and then the other one ended up being a pretty nice trade. The one I had a pretty nice trade on was Meta.
Let's do the
Um,
other one first.
the stop. Okay, the other one.
Yeah, the stop one. Yeah.
This one was actually on SPY.
Okay.
Um, so on SPY, if you go to Friday, so we had said, if price goes down, closes that
That gap
um,
earlier, yes.
closes the gap, which is a gap on the higher, it closes the gap and the demand zone right there,
Yeah.
and reverses, um, and then it comes back, not all the way to the gap, but you see right there on Friday at 10:30, you see those two kind of railroad
Yeah.
trucks
Yeah. Yeah.
engulfing, and then you see right at the after that bar closed the next hour, um, when it opened and it got past that, the engulfing wick, I entered right there on the
Okay.
long side.
What was your
Um,
stop? I like your
my
thinking,
stop,
by the way. So your
yeah,
thinking was good.
yeah,
What
my
was your
stop
stop?
was slightly below the demand zone. Okay, so if you just
Here?
about halfway between, no, no, if you go a little lower, yeah, past that, a little lower. Um, there's a gap. It's essentially just almost right before the gap. And then
Okay.
today, I ended up getting stopped out after that just huge push down.
Okay. So I think like from how you analyzed it, I like this trade. Okay. There's nothing wrong with this trade.
Hmm.
Uh, it came down to a gap close, right? It closed this gap,
Yeah.
which we had drawn earlier. When it closed that gap, you said, "Hey, I want to take a trade when I see this happening."
Yeah.
Uh, my uh, only comment on that one uh, is this, to me right here kind of feels like sideways movement more than a solid reversal. And the best way to look at that is actually let's do this. I think this is good.
Yeah.
Let's look at this bar here. Let's look at this bar and let's go to 15 minutes. Let's see what happens. Because what we're seeing is at the I think this 11:30. Let's go back to 1 hour just to make sure. So this is the 11:30 bar. So this is the 12:30 bar. So starting at 12:30 is what we want to look at. So starting at this bar is what we want to look at. So when you look at it from a lower time frame, you can kind of see, yeah, this two bars, that one looking like it wants to engulf the other like railroad tracks. Yes, because we open and close. Let's see. We open the oh wait, the 10:30. So we open the 10:30 here. We close the 12:30 here. So these two lines are the same. So that's why you have this like railroad tracks.
Mm-hmm.
But when you look at the lower time frame, you can see it's really a weak railroad track because it didn't keep pushing. It actually closed lower. Like this is what I wanted to show you. Even though they're equal, right? When you look at the 1 hour, these two are equal. But look how much wick you have at the top.
Yeah.
Right? It's, to me, this is like it's a weakness. I want to see a short wick at the top for bullish and a short wick at the bottom for bearish.
Mm-hmm.
Right? But this is really weakness. Like this is the bear saying, I'm going to keep pushing the price down. And that evidence is in this 15 minutes, right? The next 15 minutes, as you can see, it opened, it tried to push up. Again, it got rejected, right? It got rejected twice.
Mm-hmm.
So something I want you to kind of, as you start to take a trade, like kind of think about those things. Like, can you go to a lower time frame and see what's happening? If it's easier to see on a lower time frame, right? Can you even go to 5 minutes? I'm not suggesting you trade the 5 minutes, but when you go to the 5 minutes, now you can see, right? Now you can see like these bars, they're having a hard time.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're having a hard time. So here are the two bars open and close. But then when the 12:30 starts, we actually go down first. We go down, and then try to reverse, and then we create this inverted hammer. So it's very hard, right? When you're thinking of it this way, it's not easy, but something I want you to kind of start to consider when you're about to take a trade like this. This bar was not a strong, hey, I am in charge bullish bar, right? Compare this
Yeah.
bar. Let's see. Compare this bar to this bar. Compare those two bars. This one says, hey, I have a long wick. That means the bulls said, we're in charge. We're not going to let the bears take this price down. And they closed near the top. And then the next bar continues. Right? So here, they were strong for a moment, but they closed, close to halfway mark. Here, they were strong, but this was end of day.
Yeah.
right? And we don't take a trade end of day like this because we want to see the next bar opening up higher. If this was a strong bar followed by this, maybe you say I have taken this, but here it's end of day.
Yeah.
Here was good, right? It was a strong bar up, similar to this, but no follow through.
Hmm.
No follow through. The high of this 47, the high of this 60, right? Almost equal, right?
Mhm.
No follow through on this one. So kind of think about those things, right? And sometimes, like what I want to see is this at a good area of value, which you have said, you know, as far as you're concerned, this is a good area of value. So I have nothing against your trade, right? I'm just adding for you, like when you see this wick here being long, it just doesn't show conviction, right? It shows
Mhm.
some weakness.
Yeah.
I just wanted you to have that perspective. But outside of
Yeah.
that, the trade was good.
Yeah. That's something I've been paying more attention to, especially these past past few days and past
Yeah,
week. Honestly, you see kind of every pop gets sold, and you just see the long wick on the top, which tells
yeah.
you how much the bulls kind of are taking charge right now, at least.
The Bears are taking charge right now.
I'm sorry, the Bears. Yeah, the Bears are
Yes.
taking charge right now, and so
Yep.
that's been something I definitely noticed, and I'll have to incorporate. I think one thing I have to start doing is, even if, like you said, if I'm not training the 5 minute, just looking at it quickly before I make an entry to see if
Yeah.
there's any signs there that can give me any insight.
Yep.
So yeah, I'll try to do
Exactly.
that.
Exactly. All right.
Okay.
And so now next, let's go to Meta. So I want to see how you traded this because
Meta
it's a
has
lot of
had,
sideways movement.
yeah, some fireworks on Meta over the past week. The trade I took was actually on the 27th. Um, that's last Wednesday, and primarily because of the announcement that they had around their VR goggles, and I knew that there was that long wick on the um,
Right there.
uh, yeah, on September 7th. It created that long wick.
September
If you
7th
go
or
back,
27th?
well, I just want to point out the demand zone. So there was a demand zone on September 7th um, with that long wick that got created. And so I had that drawn as a demand zone right there. Exactly. And so if you go back, each time it's touched that demand zone, and I drew my fib from the bottom on August 25th. Yeah. Yep. So I had that hourly demand, and every time it's touched that 50%, you just see pop, pop, pop. And so this is going to be the third time. And I saw just a huge sell off. Not only did it flow through that demand zone, there's actually another demand zone next to it, and it closed that one completely as well. Um, and so I was just kind of watching, and then I just saw that long wick where the bulls were just taking charge. And so I actually ended up entering this one in the next bar, not the one with the long wick, but the one right next to it. I entered at 394. And then I had my stop loss at the bottom of the wick.
394 or
Yeah,
294?
294. Sorry. Yeah, 294 on the next bar. And then I had my stop just below the demand zone, the second demand zone.
So uh, what you did was you saw this reversal. So as soon as the next bar opened and it started moving higher, you said, "I'm going to take a trade."
Yes, and I had
Okay.
I set a pretty long stop because I just saw how volatile
So
it is.
your
So the
stop
stop
was
actually,
here.
yeah, and I told myself, obviously with that big range, I wasn't going to target the 2x. So at the 1x, I actually ended up exiting, and so I got the 1x pretty much, a few hours later, or
Okay.
sorry, the
So
next day, the next
okay.
morning.
So here's something I want you to look at. So this has stopped at this supply zone, right? It,
Yeah,
it comes here, it struggles. It comes here, it doesn't even quite make it. It comes here, it struggles. So it has stopped here at least twice. So, and then the 1x, if we look at the 1x, is somewhere here. So, if, how do I want to say this? If you said I want to take the 1x because I'm scared, it's wrong. If you said I want to take the 1x because you said price has come here in the past and struggled, and
yeah.
when I get there, I want to take an exit, then that's right.
Mhm. Yeah,
So,
that too. I mean, it was both. I mean, this isn't necessarily fear. Mostly for me, it was just how big of a range it is.
yeah,
For my stop, I said, hey, likely that, for 2x on this, it's going to be a little bit of a reach. And so I said I was going to take 2/3 of my position. I did leave some runners,
okay,
and then actually ended up selling those runners when we opened pretty much the next day because I had another gap up the next day,
yeah, yeah.
and then see that long wick, and then within the first hour, somewhere in there, I sold. Yeah.
That's good. This is beautiful, right? The way you thought about it, the way you used your demand zone. Even for you
Hmm.
fib, it's our green to green like that. You said this 50% green to green. This one went way below, but it got rejected, right? I mean, this is a strong rejection. Like we're not gonna
Yeah.
let you go down, and so this was very good sign, right? That you can take a trade, and beautifully set up, and then you take the balance up here. When you take your 1x, I hope you moved your stop above your entry,
Yes, I did.
right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you're playing it safe. I like this
Yeah.
trade. It's also a good trade. The reason I like it is not because it won. I like it because you thought about it, right? You processed
Hmm.
it right. It wasn't just uh, a random entry.
No, yeah. Yeah, actually, this one was a pretty exciting trade. It made me a little nervous with just how volatile it was because it was just prices were just jumping up and down.
But
But
if
yeah,
if your stop loss is always the same,
yeah,
right?
exactly,
Instead
exactly.
of 100 shares, you do one share when the
Yeah,
stop is wide, right? The wider
yeah,
the
exactly.
stop, the less number of shares you have.
Yeah,
Times the price also matters, right? So, yeah. So it's really that if you can control the fear on $100 versus the fear on Tesla or Meta, it's easier to manage,
yeah,
right? So you're
yeah.
managing $100. You're not managing Tesla. You're not managing Meta. You're not
Mm,
managing like this wild moves. You're managing your stop,
yeah.
right? And so our goal is we have more winners than losers. And if we're using that 2x consistently,
Mm,
right? Even if we don't get the 2x all the time, but if we're using that mentality consistently, then we're good, right? At 1x, you have to win 50% to break even, which is not
mm,
fun, right? It's 50 trades out of 100. That's a lot of trades just to break even. It's draining, right? To think about this, to go all through this exercise
mm.
just to break even is fantastic as a learning, but it's not sustainable, right? For growth.
Mm-hmm.
So for growth, you don't want that 1-to-1. Right? That's why you want that 2-to-1. In some
Mm-hmm.
scenarios, like in very rare cases, you accept that 1-to-1.
Yeah.
Right? Your overall average should be very close to 2-to-1 because your 1-to-ones
Mm-hmm.
are so few, right? Out of 100 trades, maybe five at most are 1-to-1,
Mm-hmm.
right? And the others are
Yeah.
2-to-1, 3-to-1, and then the losers you just lose one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay. Sounds good, Benny. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
This was definitely an exciting week, and I feel like we have more excitement planned for the rest of the week.
Yeah,
Um,
I think Saturday's news was not great news. Even though they averted the shutdown temporarily,
mm,
it was not great news.
yeah.
Right? There's still a lot of stupidity in Congress.
Yeah.
Right? They play games with each other all the time at the cost of the citizens, which is really unfair, especially those government workers. I
Yeah.
don't think that's a fair thing, but it is what it is, and
Mm,
now we just trade the market accordingly. But what we want to look at is, uh, come on, we don't want to see news. We want to see, this is what we want to see. So what we want to see is this week, is there some significant news, right? There's the ADP non-farm coming out tomorrow. ISM services PMI coming out tomorrow. Like when you see red, it's big deal.
yeah. Today, I thought it was interesting because it was right after the JOLTS numbers dropped that the market just started tanking um, this morning.
Day. So
Yeah.
that's at 7 a.m. our time. So if you look at the
Oh,
market,
it's 70. Oh,
yeah,
okay.
if you look at the market, they're already dropped,
Yeah.
right? Even at the beginning, the Qs kind of held strong. Uh, Initially, they pretended to hold strong, but then they also collapsed. But so yeah, this, I mean, it's not a bad number, right? I don't know
Yeah.
why they decided to do this, but the thing is, Friday is non-farm payroll. This is a big deal.
Mm,
I My thinking is right now we'll have a, an upside surprise. That's what I
mm,
think because we're not seeing a lot of layoffs lately, right? And
yeah.
and a lot of people on LinkedIn are starting to remove their green banners,
Mm,
like the open to work green banners. So to
yeah.
me, that's a sign that there's more and more employment coming, even in tech.
Mm,
So this 171, we might get an upside surprise. Uh, and what I think is going to happen between now and Friday, if we push price up, they would find some nonsense reason to push it back down. I think they want to push the price back down to grab some more shares at cheaper price, and we will ride with them.
Between now and Friday, you mean?
No, between now and Monday.
Oh, between now and Monday.
Yeah,
Okay.
as soon as the Friday news comes out, that's when they will say, "Hey, yeah, you know what? We need to take the market back down to this levels here." Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think this is good. I like your trades. I think we have a good plan. Qs is what we will trade from the indexes perspective. And as always, I look forward to your next trades for the rest of this week. So let's wrap it up for today.
Awesome.